that will be preceded by a series of events, as you can witness at the moment today, of the former Prime Minister, which is the public viewing of the body of the former Prime Minister, now taken off the military gun carriage, draped in the Kenyan flag that he loved for so long, his entire life. And now it's taken into the Kasarani Stadium upon the shoulders of the services from the Defense Forces in their ceremonial attire, who since this morning have been with a snail pace along Mombasa Road from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, taking his body until its arrival at the Kasarani Stadium, the 60,000-seater stadium where people, as you can see, have almost filled to capacity, and also taking the pitch space at the stadium. And thereafter, of course, will be the starting of the public viewing of the former Prime Minister. Still photos of the former MP, former Prime Minister, the ODM party leader, who has with ease won over the hearts of many Kenyans, today playing before our own eyes the support that he has commanded among millions of Kenyans. And there we go, the stadium almost filled to capacity, if not full. And they are also in the company of millions of others who are following this live broadcast across the country, following the death of the former Prime Minister. A frontline in the defense for human rights, an advocate, a Pan-Africanist and nationalist, the patriot, the dexterous, the bold, the geostrategist, Raila Amollo Odinga. Born in Maseno in the county of Kisumu, up until the apex of Kenya's politics, becoming, if not the most, one of the most consequential politicians that the motherland has ever produced. A man engineered for different seasons, and against all the odds when ruled out, has managed to defy the odds. And from the ashes at the odd times, he has managed to overcome the challenges of his time, dating back to when he was first elected to Parliament, then and also as a parliamentarian, especially after the 1997 elections, when he had extended an olive branch to President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who was under considerable pressure after his re-election for a final term following the repeal of Section 2A of the Constitution. Odinga then thereafter becoming a key member of KANU party before the 2002 elections, and the opposition at the time presented with the enormous task of coalescing around a candidate and managing to throw his weight behind Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, which led to the birth of the National Alliance Rainbow Coalition government, which had defeated the KANU candidate then, Uhuru Kenyatta, a protege of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, before the friction that had bedeviled the NAG government, leading to the referendum in 2005 and the unceremonious dismissal of cabinet by President Mwai Kibaki after his team, the Banana team, had lost the referendum to Raila Odinga's orange side of the divide. That led to the birth of the ODM party just less than 2 years before the elections in 2007, historic by all means, and commentators arguing that Odinga won the 2007 elections, and of course the ugly spectre which had engulfed the country in the aftermath of that. Let's cross over to the Kasarani Stadium and listen in. historic by all means, and commentators arguing that Odinga won the 2007 elections, and of course the ugly spectre which had engulfed the country in the aftermath of that. Let's cross over to the Kasarani Stadium and listen in. And there you have the live pictures coming to you from the Moi International Kasarani Sports Center, where we had witnessed the arrival of the body of the former Prime Minister that was taken off the military gun carriage and into the stadium thereafter. The scenes that we had witnessed of gunfire, shots into the air to disperse the surging crowd into the area that was meant to be the sitting positions for the dignitaries, including the president, who we hadn't confirmed his presence. But we had seen the presence of other ODM leadership. But to get what's happening there, let's get in touch with my colleague Jimmy Mbogo by way of link. And Jimmy, what can you tell us? We have heard sounds of gunshots. What exactly is happening?
It's quite a scary experience where we are currently standing in somewhere we've had to take cover. So there was a bit of an altercation between the leaders and the crowd that had gathered there. There was a bit of pouring of water on that is on some of the leaders there, and we saw some of the agitated crowd throwing the twigs that they had with them into that is the presidential dais. I believe that should be in the middle. Now, that is what triggered the response from the police officers and the security personnel that were mad in that pavilion, both the presidential escort and, of course, the reggae team that is currently here at Kasarani Stadium. So that then resulted to the lobbing of tear gas just to disperse that crowd that was there, and it didn't matter whether you're media or part of the crowd that was just that had gathered here as mourners. Everyone has been dispersed. So we are still taking cover somewhere within the building, but we will try to go back in and see whether that has been addressed. But majority of the people that had gathered here at Kasarani Stadium, there was a bit of a stampede, and most of them actually ran towards the exit. So if you look at the exit places, and especially next to Gate 4, and Gate 3, that is where majority of the people are currently standing. When you look on behind the presidential pavilion, there's still a number of vehicles here belonging to some of these leaders that were inside. We're trying to just say, and earlier what we saw is some of these ODM leaders had tried to reach out and speak to try and just calm down the was facing agitation. Happened here from right around the time that here, which is around 12 p.m. Now you will remember that the viewing was supposed to happen at Parliament, but because of the crowd there and the very poor crowd control that we saw there, that same crowd had to move back to this side once they got the news that the viewing was supposed to happen right here at the Kasarani Stadium. Now, but as soon as we got here, that is around a few minutes after midday, that is when we found the police and the security apparatus here at the Kasarani Stadium just trying to come up with a strategy and planning themselves. However, a few minutes after we got here, there was slowly building. If you remember from the link that I had done earlier on, we just got into the stadium. The crowd was still very manageable, so there was an opportunity to try and control this crowd better. However, that opportunity was missed because as the security operators were still getting their acts together, the crowd kept on. And so they ended up getting into the stadium through all the entrance that they could find, and slowly onto the play. Now, ideally, what we were told the plan was for them to get into the stadium, that is between Gate 9 and Gate 10. and walk around the stadium, view the body right down, right on the field level. That is where the viewing was supposed to happen, straight on across from the presidential pavilion, and they were supposed to walk straight into Gate 4 and exit through that gate. However, before even the barriers could be set up, the crowd kept on increasing, and so it became a nightmare. It became very evident that the security operators were not ready to receive this crowd that was building. But then, so the crowd went on, and we saw a number of leaders from the ODM party that were already here. They tried to speak to them just to try and get them to calm down, to try and get them to be patient. However, there has been no communication from the leaders that are currently here. We have tried to, we're hoping that at least there would be a bit of a direction to be given. And right above me, I can see former Chief Justice, that is David Maraga, who's also taken cover in the VIP area. And so that just goes to show you that no one was spared in this chaos that we have witnessed a few minutes ago. So there was a bit of tear gas that has been lobbed, and what is believed to be either live or rubber bullets that was in the air, trying to make sure crowd that was really buzzing and asking to know what is the way forward. We will try also to, if we can, able to speak to some of the youth. However, that will have to wait until later on so that we can understand why, what triggered that. But from where we were shooting from, and from where we were standing together with our to alert you is that our entire team is okay. That is my camera person, my camera colleague, and also our colleagues from Inoro and Ramogi. We are all safe, so no one needs to worry about us. We are okay. We're just taking cover. So based on that, we will try to understand. We haven't seen any of the leaders leave yet. Right where I'm standing, what I can be able to see is that all the leaders are still here, based on the number of their vehicles, and all their assistants are still here. You can see a number of them just speaking to each other. It is, however, what we do not know is what is the way forward. Is there are Kenyans going to be allowed then to go ahead and view this body and pay their last respect, or not? Because from all indications here is that this is likely to happen. However, there has been no communication. Now, I will take you back. The public address vehicle, the president, side of the field, but as soon as bigger, we saw some of these vehicles being attacked. Initially, playing a bit of music, just
that is Jimmy Mbogo, and we do apologize towards the end of the lacking clarity in his communication due to the breakdown that we had experienced, and he was giving us an assessment of what's happening at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, where members of the security service are trying to contain the surging sea of humanity that was there to receive the body of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga that was taken off the military gun carriage. And the public viewing that was supposed to happen seems to be here, underpinned by the headache posed by the logistical nightmare which had prompted the move from the National Assembly in Parliament to the Moi International Sports Center. And we had seen a while ago, as Jimmy had reported, sounds of gunfire, but he had authoritatively confirmed that those were of rubber bullets that were fired to disperse the crowds, and as well as the tear gas that was lobbed to disperse the crowds that were building up towards the presidential dais that was meant to accommodate the president and other dignitaries for the public viewing that was to take place. And this is in relation to the fitting send-off that was accorded the former Prime Minister by the President yesterday when he addressed the nation from State House in Nairobi, a man who he had described, and many did, including those who he had served with in Parliament, as a debater, and a formidable one at that, when he represented the constituency of Langata, and thereafter becoming one of the key ingredients of the Grand Coalition government, having served as the Prime Minister with President Mwai Kibaki after the 2007 post-election violence. A man of convictions made for the seasons, as yesterday described by many, and the fitting salute that will be accorded the former Prime Minister, and man who as well had broken the thickness of unimaginable glass ceiling in Kenya's political arena. So as we make sense of what's happening in Kasarani, let's come back to studio, and I'm joined by Alex Matere and Kedi Mwaga. Gentlemen, much appreciated. Of course, young, but both of you have benefited from the association that you had with the former Prime Minister. Alex, to begin with you, such a big day, and it appears that even in death, the former Prime Minister, as he was when he was alive, commands so much respect among millions with considerable ease.
Thank you so much, Ayub. First, allow me to start by sending my heartfelt condolences to our mother, Mama Aida, the children, our contemporaries, Winnie, Junior, and Rosemary, for not just having lost a leader, but a father. Secondly, also to all his supporters across. Baba, in several occasions, he was heard saying that he has 10 million strong. His rallying call has always been 10 million strong. And whoever doubted that, today I think what we have been able to see from JKIA to Kasarani has basically proven that Baba was really, really loved. The way Amollo Kijana aptly captured it back when they were fighting for multi-party democracy, that there are only two sides of Raila and his supporters. You are either a Raila mania or a Raila phobia. So you've seen the mania side of Raila play out today. What I'd want to encourage the supporters who are across the country is to ask themselves one pertinent question. How would Baba have wanted his farewell to be? Would he have wanted it to have this kind of commotion that we are witnessing in Kasarani? Or he would have wanted it to be quite orderly, the way he was and the way he taught us all through the years that we shared with him? He would have wanted all the protocols to be followed. He would have wanted people to mourn him, but in order. So I'd want to encourage and urge all the supporters across the country to exercise decorum, to exercise restraint despite the kind of pain, the kind of sadness that they have in their hearts, so that we can be able to give Baba a befitting send-off.
Yeah. And Kidi, an extraordinary leader, an extraordinary man.
An extraordinary leader, an extraordinary man. Wonderful phrases for Raila Odinga. I mean, Ayub, we are in this moment of a grief of continental proportion. I think it is incumbent upon us as the people of Kenya, again, as my brother Matere rightly puts it, to agonize profoundly on how Baba would have wanted us to remember him. I think one of the greatest legacy of Raila Amollo Odinga was that he understood profoundly what a fragile state Kenya was. And I think that at every critical juncture, when us as his supporters would feel that maybe he had been robbed of victory, Baba would have the presence of mind to put aside his ambition and give the people who then had been given the instruments of power to lead. And he would then lend them his own legitimacy of the people who loved him. I think to that extent, as the people of Kenya, we must remember that Baba wanted us to live in a peaceful country, and to that extent, may we remember that and remain peaceful in all the processes that have been, as they have been communicated to us by the funeral committee.
Yeah, and the changes, Alex, coming in because Parliament apparently wouldn't have been the ideal location, I mean, despite what was granted as the state funeral and all the accompanying rights that will be detailing and the differences therein because of the persona of the former Prime Minister. And appears that it still is prompting logistical challenges and nightmare, as we had witnessed at the Kasarani Stadium.
Yeah.
Seems that we are in for a long haul before his burial on Sunday.
Yeah. I think it was expected for us who have been learning at Raila's feet. We knew that despite the wishes that he had made very clear through the committee, that he would have wanted to be mourned and buried within 3 days. We also have, on the flip side, the wishes of his supporters, of his mentees, of the people that he has groomed and mentored across the journey. And therefore, I think this is part of the challenge that we currently have. Early in the day, I was actually at JKIA.
Yeah, in the morning.
In the morning, when the military had actually also mounted military guard in honor, in readiness for receiving the body together with the president in honor of Raila Odinga. But that wasn't possible because the crowd kept on surging to the point that it had to move all the way to the runway. And later after that, we came all the way up to Parliament. And coming to Parliament again, we had left one big crowd at JKIA, another one we came with it all the way to town. In Parliament, there was also a crowd that was waiting for him.
And also at the Lee Funeral Home.
At the Lee Funeral Home, there was also another crowd waiting for him. So this is basically the enigma, the way it has been captured by Babafemi Badejo in his book. This is the enigma of Kenyan politics. I'm so sure there are thousands of supporters who have traveled from across all corners of the country to be able to be here to pay tribute and also to view the body and pay their last respect to Raila Odinga. So it's going to be a logistical nightmare. First from Kasarani, then where the body is going to be taken tonight, the state funeral that we expect tomorrow. But that said and done, also there are protocols that come with the preparation of a state funeral. We have to remember very well that Raila himself was actually an avid debater representing Langata constituency, probably the only person in the history of our democracy who, after he crossed party lines, he actually went through a by-election that was caused by that. I don't think we have any other person who has been able to do that. So Raila stands tall, first as a parliamentarian, and secondly as a leader. And because of that, I think, and as per the protocols of state funerals, it was procedural that he needed to have gone to Parliament the way it has always been done by former heads and departed former heads of states and heads of government. If a Prime Minister passes on, then they have to lay in state in Parliament. So it's a ritual or it's a tradition that has already been set. The thing that keeps on bothering me is whether we can be able to manage this logistical nightmare to fully carry out the state funeral the way the protocols require, or we might have to skive one or two other processes.
Yeah, and Kidi, when he was presented with the question of losing the presidency, the prospects of regarding the Mau Forest question, he said, I am not a consensus politician, but a conviction politician. And this mark certainly is it, as a student of political history, Kidi, the beginning of a new era for Kenya after Sunday. How will it look like in the shadows of the former Prime Minister?
I think the best part about Raila's legacy is that he allowed so many young and upcoming politicians to access him. For instance, on this panel alone, we had the good fortune of working very intimately with him during last election. We were actually among a select few young people who did the last mile of his youth presidential campaign. One thing Raila taught us is that you cannot get into leadership, particularly political leadership, and sustain a long-term following if you are not authentic. That authenticity of Raila Odinga, you see it from the days they begin LDP, when he is championing for socioeconomic rights, to the time when, as a Prime Minister and co-president and helping back the new constitution, they made sure that Article 43 was about socioeconomic rights, that they realized that leaving them as political rhetoric is not enough, because you are not sure who is going to get to the helm of power tomorrow. So that irrespective of whoever is president, whoever holds the instruments of power, they must remember that socioeconomic rights are part of the social bargain that the people have made with the state. So you see Raila, the conviction politician, and I think if you look at Kenya's history in the 21st century, he remains the most consequential retail politician. One politician who had the capacity to connect with people from diverse backgrounds. The rest of us knew how much Raila would keep in touch, would call the most, least person you'd think of, someone you'd meet and walk past, Raila had his number.
Yeah, and Alex, is he a man who had sculptured himself to be the socialist he was and the social democrat? And thus, is it the explanation as to why we are seeing the multitude of humanity following him from the JKIA to Parliament to Lee Funeral Home? And now, in less than an hour, they have filled 60,000-seater stadium in Kasarani.
Ayub, the way my colleague has aptly captured it, Raila was a social democrat. We actually used to refer to him as the North Pole of democracy, not just in Kenya, but across Africa. And easily the best of Africa's second generation of leaders. After the exit of Kwame Nkrumah, Leopold Senghor, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Ben Bella, and the likes, they handed over the mantle to the second generation of African leaders. And Raila happened to have read and learned the art of politics and the art of leadership and governance from the first generation of African leaders. The kind of vision that they had for Africa, the unity for Africa, the prosperity for Africa, the stability, the economic progress of Africa. This was transited later on to Raila, and he gave us a very good glimpse during the time he had given a bid to the AUC, the African Union Commission. I think it was quite clear the kind of politician that he was. To us who have gone through his hands, one of the things that probably is less said is that Raila wasn't made in a day. Raila was a product of a very rigorous and vigorous democratic process, that one of mentorship and that one of learning. Back after he came from detention and he went away in Norway, in one of the occasions that I sat with him, he used to tell me that the time that he was in Norway, 90% of his time, he actually took it to learn, to study African culture, to study African history, to study African economy. And that's why Raila was well versed with the entire continental economy. He wouldn't challenge him in a question. For instance, if you throw a random question about Mozambique, Raila would have an answer in his fingertips. If you challenged him a question about Egypt, Raila would have an answer in his fingertips. So through the kind of mentorship that he himself was a product